So normally I would cover one topic. No, I've never covered one topic. Sometimes I cover one topic. I want to talk about two different things. Uh, First of all, sort of the origin or birth of the so-called computer religious wars. So no, we really called them that then, contemporaneously with the event. And of course, the big one is VI or Emacs. Now, I have typed, did not write, I was typing for Stallman, uh, Emacs source code. There you go. Those are my creds, which are obviously more impressive than they seem and less impressive than they seem at the same time. So my problem with being surrounded by a bunch of people who use Emacs all the time, and not all of them, a few of the guys at the GNU Lab use VI, but mostly the ones working on non non-code work, right? Some of the systems guys might fire up VI. VI was, of course, more widely available and shipped, but the actual technical problem with Emacs is that Emacs is not an editor. It's fundamentally not an editor, right? It's an eLisp interpreter with all the features of an operating system minus a kernel. If you take the kernel out of the operating system, Emacs is pretty much and more, right? And more. And there's a few things missing, right? There's a bunch of IO and glue code missing that you would need to bridge between the kernel and Emacs. But largely, it's an operating system without a kernel. And I just need to edit a file. Thank you very much. Now, Emacs has amazing, cool features that cannot be duplicated in VI. Of course, there are different tools for different purposes. But if you think Emacs is an editor, I can understand your confusion. Also, you're a retard. Okay, editors do not interpret versions of Lisp. If what you're doing is interpreting a programming language, then you are a interpreter, right? You are not an editor. An editor just takes a static text file and either creates it from nothing, except the user's input, or edits it and saves it. That's it. It's a load, save, edit feature. Emacs doesn't actually do any of that, right? Because it's an eLisp interpreter with process control, right? So it can actually control all the processes, which makes it very powerful because you can open like 10 bash windows and have eLisp automatically macro things into magical existence. And had I the patience and desire to sit and learn eLisp, which I never did, probably as good as Python, right? In fact, I know some of the things it does, like Lisp's handling of strings is way better than everybody else's. There's no real question of that. I think Python sort of stole some of that, right? When you start getting into things like slices, slices is the right way to do things. And of course, a close second is Perl 4. Don't touch Perl 5. Perl 5 is probably spawned by pure evil somehow. But Perl 4 was excellent, excellent at strings. Python, however, is pretty much just as good, if not better. eLisp, from my memory, which, again, I never learned eLisp. I didn't like it. I was just trying to edit a damn file. And to be fair, like, other than very specific places, no one was doing multi-compute, same operation work. In the GNU labs, that was rare because while they had a bunch of machines, they had a bunch of Sun machines, they had a bunch of HP machines, they had IBM, they had AT&T. I don't remember what else was there. There was a ton of stuff there. So I think the most of what they had were HPs. They had a bunch of free HP workstations that were, 30 to 50 grand a pop or something stupid back in the 80s. They were hugely expensive computers. So when you think about it that way, I was like, well, it's really not fair. But it was a quote religious war, which was odd because they all claim to be atheists and computer people. So this has been going on for a lot longer than you think. That was the 80s. That was the 1980s. This is not new. Happened first in computers for what should be obvious reasons. So the other thing I wanted to cover is really the only thing you need to create better software. Now, I'm not an individualist because individualism happens to be evil, so don't do that. You also can't, and that's what makes it evil. You're trying to do something you can't do. If you want to become a better software engineer than you are, now this doesn't say how much better you can become or if you can ever be any good to be useful at all. You need somebody or some methodology, although a person, I don't think AI is really there yet, or maybe it can't ever be. You need a way to test. And the one thing we're not doing with software anymore is testing. So if you can have good tests and good test procedures and good test capabilities, you can be a great software engineer. Or at least you can be better than you are. You can't have great software engineers if you don't have great testing. Testing and feedback are required. And you know what we don't do anymore? Proper testing. Unit tests are improper testing and completely worthless. I'm fairly sure I've talked about this before. If you want to hear about it again, I will go over it again because I hate unit tests. Test-driven development is a horrible idea, except with AI.